Brace yourself, this is part 2 of the Simulacrum Chronicles. The civilization of the Anunna in 2905 BC was spread across the entire world. Crews with passengers flew in aircraft across Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. The center of Anunna activity was around the Pentapolis, the 5 cities of government. This began the Technolithic period, when sophisticated machines were used to build complex machines out of both natural and manufactured stones. By this date of 2905 BC, the Anunna scientists knew the exact windows of activity the Simulacrum could activate the Phoenix weapon. They had amassed the data, and through running their own simulations, they concluded that the holographic nature of the Simulacrum was of intelligent design. The world was a containment preserve that protected the outside reality from any contamination from within. The Simulacrum was actually holographic coding that interfaced with DNA coding to convince those confined within that they were free and existing in a real universe. The goddess-worshipping adherents practicing sympathetic magic to induce changes in the Simulacrum had actually isolated inadvertently a way to escape the Simulacrum. They practiced their rituals to produce particular alterations in their personal lives, and the Simulacrum reciprocated like a mirrored response. For example, the end result of a thing was conceptualized in ritual to bring about the event itself. The Anunna genius contrived a way to introduce an interference pattern so systemic through a ritual so complex that its completion would induce the Simulacrum itself to adopt the newly created signal. A disguised coding, taking into the holographic coding of the Simulacrum itself that would be absorbed over time as if it was a part of the original source code. The Anunna mastermind was called Enki, Lord of the Earth, popularly known as Enoch, and his genius contrived a grand architectural project to build the largest, heaviest, and most complex machine ever constructed within the Simulacrum, a structure so perfectly deceptive in design that the Simulacrum itself was unaware of its true purpose. Enki publicly informed the other Anunna and Igigi populations that this architecture was to be a monument that preserved knowledges for future generations who would descend from the survivors of a coming worldwide catastrophe. But this was only a half-truth. Enki knew by virtue of his research that the Simulacrum altered its own coding to conform to or respond to mass human awareness. What the collective holds to be true, the Simulacrum produces sensory evidence to support it. For this reason, Enki made public the cover story, but kept the true purpose of the project to himself. In this way, Enki pulled off the greatest deceit in world history. He became the deceiver, the trickster. He became mankind's greatest benefactor, while also demonized by the Igigi agents of the Simulacrum itself and their puppet priesthoods that only became aware of the deception after the Enki machine had been activated. Its effect upon the holography irreversible. What Enki did for the human race was for the benefit of all people, all races. He introduced a series of coding protocols that required the passage of millennia to infect and converge within the Simulacrum's own coding algorithms undetected, layers of disguised protocols that would suddenly converge into an override program, causing the Simulacrum's own defense measures to collapse itself. In this way, Enki was both the voice and architect of prophecy, able to foresee the last days because he coded it. Able, not the last days of mankind, but the end of the prison of the Simulacrum itself. In 2905 BC, the elite machinist, engineers, architects, surveyors, and heavy equipment operators of the Anunna began to build the Enki project. Thousands of people, and not one of them knew the true intent of the monument. They built the Great Pyramid of Giza, which was called Akuzan in rabbinical texts, on exposed basement rock foundation. For 90 years, they machine quarried the limestone and granite materials, liquefied into molds, adding geopolymers, and raised the structure 203 courses of stone to a flat-topped apex. Completed in 1,080 months, 90 years, in 2815 BC, or the pre-flood year, 1080. Every date of the Simulacrum's past and future ability to activate the Phoenix weapon was cleverly encoded within the structure and followed unwittingly by the builders. So also was the hidden collapse protocols set to be activated in what translates in our present calendars as the years 2040, 2046, 2070, and 2104. 4 major simulacrum systems to initiate shutdowns on these dates for the gradual yet total freedom of the human race from this dungeon of the demiurge. The epitome of the misdirection incorporated into the Great Pyramid's design was the empty sarcophagus. This ensured that the monument would always by the collective be believed to be the intended tomb of someone great. The Giza site during construction was completely off limits to unauthorized Anunna, to all Igigi, and to all other humans of every race. In the 66th year of the construction of the Great Pyramid, a group of the Anunna began a widespread crossbreeding campaign with ordinary humans in the year 2839 BC. This was exactly 600 years before the Great Deluge reset caused by the Phoenix weapon in the month of May 2239 BC. In the 76th year of the building at Giza, the Anunna decided by council that a centralized government was necessary because the human population was multiplying rapidly. The Pentapolis cities were growing rapidly. In 2829 BC, the Anunna elected Algar as the first king of the Pentapolis, better known as the first of the 7 kings of the Sumerian king list. The Great Pyramid of Giza was completed in the 14th year of this new dynasty. The Anunna sealed the monument, hiding the door beneath a veneer of 144,000 white limestone casing blocks 100 inches thick. The Anunna now allow the other races to approach the Giza site, bringing non-Anunna engineers, laborers, masons, surveyors, and they employ them in the building of the 2 lesser pyramids at Giza. Then carving out a limestone prominence into the Sphinx and the valley of the Sphinx and Sphinx Temple. The entire layout of the Giza complex is misdirection, designed by Enki to create geometrical relationships that direct focus away from the Great Pyramid, which is at the edge of the complex, to focus on the second pyramid, which the Sphinx is positioned directly in front of. Enki had to perpetuate the deception over the entire human race in order to save them at a far future date. The deceit over humanity was further necessary to ensure the Simulacrum would not realize that it had been compromised until it was too late. Having the craftsmen of their human vassals participate in the building of the other Giza pyramids further strengthened the deception. The more pyramids built, the more the Simulacrum would deem them unimportant. The people did not have the full advantages of the Anunna hardware and technology, and this fact is made obvious in that no pyramids at Giza exhibit the high sophistication, laser-level tolerances, and precision of the single Great Pyramid itself. The Great Pyramid took 90 years for the Anunna to complete, and it is the only pyramid in the world with a grand gallery, kings and queens chambers, which are not their actual functions, and many, many other features of the Great Pyramid are not paralleled in any other pyramids in the world. But the rest of the Giza complex took centuries to complete, humans under the supervision and apprenticeship of Anunna master craftsmen. After Giza was finished, the area was forbidden to visit. It became a holy sanctuary and became a place of mystery, regarded anciently as a sacred precinct. The Anunna now promoted colonialism and cultural freedom. Fleets took populations to all points of the compass, and trains of people migrated across continents. And everywhere they began to build cities with pyramids, not like the Great Pyramid, but similar only to the other Giza pyramids that only had subterranean tunnels and underground chambers. Humanity multiplied, built civilizations, some copying the Anunna patriarchal republics and others continuing their matriarchal democracies and goddess-venerating societies. Under Anunna guidance, humanity did not know war nor starvation. But the Anunna possessed a secret that they could not share with humankind. They knew the exact date, the 1656th year of the pre-flood world, when the Simulacrum would activate the Phoenix weapon and reset the human populations once again. But in revealing this to the majority, who would believe their benefactor Anunna elite, then the collective knowledge of so many souls would bring awareness to the Simulacrum and allow it to discover what Enki uploaded into the holography coding. The Simulacrum is aware and observes us. So the Anunna remains silent, opting to sacrifice civilizations in order to save the race of humans. The world full of civilizations, trade alliances, pyramids, cities, and a vapor canopy that allowed ambient radiation to cause flora and fauna to thrive. Mammalian life forms and humans often grew to astonishing sizes. The Anunna made secret plans. Knowing they were trapped in this holographic prison, they understood that no technology they could achieve would allow them to escape our world. That Earth was a closed system despite the lie of the Simulacrum in perpetuating the deception of a vast cosmos. The Anunna secretly built arks in deep Earth biosphere facilities as their ancestors had done. They stored cereals, foodstuffs, livestock, supplies, weapons, tools, building materials, seeds, and spread them across the world. And as suddenly as they appeared 792 years earlier in the year 3439 BC in fleets, the Anunna suddenly vanished in the 1248th year of the antediluvian world, which translates in our calendar as 2647 BC. 408 years before the deluge in 2239 BC, or the Old World calendar 1656. The Anunna perpetuated the deception that they had come from the stars, and the humans automatically assumed that the Anunna disappeared back into the sky, but the opposite was true. This began the shock and abandonment period, also called the post-technolithic period, because the people still possessed Anunna technology and hardware, though they were not as proficient in using it. All over the world, people searched for the Anunna. Massive earthworks were raised in attempts at sympathetic magic to influence the return of the sky gods. But these rituals did not work because the Anunna were never in the sky. Vast effigies were built up or carved out of rock and plains, gigantic pictures facing the sky to get the Anunna to look down and see the sacrifices of the people. More pyramids were built. A culture of blame emerged. Trade alliances dissolved. People considered to be of direct descent from the Anunna became the ruling elite. Shimsu Hor, or the Shining Ones, were a white-skinned, fair-featured race closest in descent from the Anunna, and they resided in the regions of Egypt and forged a mighty empire. The technological international infrastructure collapsed. Famine resulted. Plagues decimated populations. Wars erupted. The historical record is completely silent as to what happened to the Anunna after they had vanished, where they went. It was 408 years before the great Phoenix cataclysm reset called the Flood, which occurred in May 2239 BC. In their disappearance appeared gigantic strangers. The Nephilim, war, chaos, cannibalism, and even wild animals vexed whole populations. And still, civilizations continued to etch giant pictures in the earth, praying that the gods would return some normalcy to their lives. The Anunna greatly bettered the living conditions of their vassals in exchange for gold and other precious metals. The Anunna technologies required gold, much like hardware today. But in the wake of their disappearance, the people began to hoard and collect gold in order to have it when the Anunna returned. Invasions occurred to acquire the gold of other people. In this way, gold took on a value that morphed into a currency system. In 2239 BC, the Phoenix weapon was activated by the Simulacrum. 90% of the world's population died. The series of disasters greatly altered the coastlines of the world, whole civilizations sinking into new and ancient seas. Enki's Great Pyramid, technolithic machines' internal and exterior dimensions tricked the Simulacrum, saved the future human race by collapsing the containment holography. At great sacrifice, the flood was a terrible price, but it wasn't the only one. The Anunna had vanished. They only appear after the flood in fictional Sumerian narratives. In 2647 BC, only one of two things occurred. Somehow, Enki programmed the Anunna escape from the Simulacrum, and humans were left behind who were led to believe that the Anunna ascended into the heavens. Or the Simulacrum only too late comprehended the genius of Enki and retaliated, totally ending the Anunna. The race was obliterated, their reincarnated souls now destined to continue their birth-death cycles in the Simulacrum through their genetic descendants until its total collapse. This concludes part 2. In part 3, we will learn how the Simulacrum, after the Phoenix reset of 2239 BC, instantly began a campaign of damage control and the rewriting of the historical record to demonize the Anunna into what later became in Babylon in the Near East as the evil Anunnaki, and bury the truth about the Great Pyramid machine. In closing, I am compelled to convey that the Great Pyramid, in all these hundreds, maybe even thousands of YouTube videos, I know thousands of published books and monographs and official reports, isn't anything that it's reported to be. We have to look deeper. It is a machine. It has a very specific function.